Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hello,
Dina.
hello.
It's not Sharon.
Trying to get ourselves
Not
set
much.
up
How are
as well
you?
to put it on Facebook
Hi.
Live at the same time.
You had a
Shavuot
nice
Tov.
Shabbos?
Beautiful. And you?
Baruch Hashem.
Thank God. Yeah. Quiet, everybody. We saw the
Yeah.
grandchildren from a
Listen, we're
distance.
healthy. That's the main
Hello,
thing.
Tella. Hello,
Stella.
Raskins.
Hey, Raskin.
Hey, there he is. Ari, how you
Ari,
doing?
אליהו זאב, שבוע טוב.
Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Hi, Ari,
Mr. Bramson, how are you?
terrific.
Hey,
Harry, how
שבוע
are
I
you?
had the
Hey,
pleasure.
Robert, how are you?
Baruch Hashem,
Ari, we're going to be home later. Can you take the phone later? I want to
For
talk to you
sure.
about. I met your aunt, and I don't know which aunt it was.
Hilarious. Probably only one of my aunts over there.
Well, it was a rabbi. I met the rabbi, your uncle, and then
Yeah.
I met your. I don't know if your aunt had another sister there, but I met.
She's my only Floridian aunt.
Okay, so and she didn't call you up and tell you she met me.
Terrible. I'm gonna scream at her.
Oh, yeah, you better talk to her.
I shall. I shall. I want to hear this Havdallah. It's very exciting.
Really? I hope
I'm
you're going
only here
to
trying to get
sing.
holy, but I better run out of
Ari,
candles.
where are your drums?
Hold on. Do I still have to say Havdallah in my house if I hear it online?
I already did it.
I asked the rabbi if I want to do it, but till the
We will. We're going to do it together. Hello, Nathan. Shabbat Tov.
שבוע טוב.
We're going to start Havdalah in a moment, but first we want to wish to everyone a Shabbat Tov. We have just finished Shabbat Hagadol, the Great Shabbat. There's only one Shabbat in the year. We spoke before Shabbat. It's called the Great Shabbat. And one of the reasons it's called the Great Shabbat is because inside this Shabbat this week, we have Pesach, which is itself a big holiday. So the Shabbat that blesses the holiday is even greater than the holiday. So we're coming from a great Shabbat where we together hopefully drew in a lot of energy, a lot of spirituality, a lot of holiness, a lot of strength to be able to go into the holiday of Pesach. And you know, this year, the calendar days are exactly the way it was when we were in Egypt. We left Egypt on a Thursday. The Shabbat before was the 10th of Nisan, exactly the way it is this year. Pesach is Wednesday night, Thursday. So this year we're replaying. And on the 10th of Nisan, all the Jews were told, go in your homes and isolate yourself in your homes for 4 days until you will be able to sacrifice the Paschal lamb. So we're reliving, and just like then, it brought about the greatest redemption at the time. So too, may this Shabbat, and now this Havdallah, which takes us into the week as well, bring the greatest redemption to all of us. And we shouldn't just have Pesach, but we should have the final redemption, the coming of Mashiach quickly in our days.
Amen, amen.
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 You know, one of the reasons we lit the candle, Shavuot Tov, whoever's coming in, one of the reasons that we light the candle is because when Adam and Eve were in paradise and they sinned right before Shabbat, but they stayed in paradise till after Shabbat, they saw no darkness. When they were thrown out of paradise because of their sin after Shabbat, all of a sudden it was dark. And they created the first light. They took 2 flintstones and they figured out, they rubbed it against each other and some light came out. So we light our light and we make a blessing. We look at the candles because the ability to come, when you come from Shabbat, we have the power to light up the future week. And you know, just like fire, if used properly, it can warm, it gives light, it molds things together, it cooks meals, takes food and makes it something prepared and ready to be used. Or God forbid, it could be used for terrible things, for destruction. So we hope coming from Shabbat, the energy that we took from Shabbat will help us build and be productive and to lead into the beautiful week of Pesach. One second.
Oh.
I want to see something before we actually start. Is it on in somebody's? Okay. So we are going to start the Havdallah. It's a beautiful Chabad tune. Hine Yeshua Shiyavtach V'lo yefchad ki yazik V'zimnaso Adonai v'yehili Yeshua Shiyavtem mayim b'sasayim V'yimayne Yeshua Adonai Yeshua Alam Chavikasecha Adonai Tzva'oi Simon Is Gavalano Elehei Yaakov V'Selah Adonai Tzva'oi Ashrei Adam V'yitei Achbava Adonai Yeshia Melech Yaneinu Ve'yai Mekareinu Vayodim Ha'isayra Ve'simcha v'sasayin v'yikar Inti alano V'yis Yeshua Yisesa V'shem Adonai Yekra Sabri Mananan Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'yirei Yaakov Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'yirei b'nei b'samim.
Amen.
Amen.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'yirei
Amen.
Amen.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Amabdil ben kodesh lechoil ben achai sham ben Yisrael ha'amim yoy mashvi l'sheshet yimei ha'maaseh Baruch Adonai Amabdil ben kodesh lechoil. We'll now put out the candle. While we light the candles, as the custom is, by the table we're going to eat tonight, and everyone should take. We pass you all the blessings from the bracha, the Havdallah, that we put by our eyes and in our pockets for wisdom, guidance, and lots of success in Parnassah for all of us. And as the custom is, that we share a story of the Baal Shem Tov. So tonight and tomorrow is the birthday of the Rebbe. Tonight, 118 years ago, 1902, the Rebbe was born in a city called Nikolaev, in White Russia. And I just heard actually this past week in a letter of the previous Rebbe that he wrote that in 1902, there was a terrible decree against the Jewish people And right before Pesach, miraculously, was averted. So the Rebbe, born into the world immediately already, not only throughout his leadership, immediately his birth brought a great miracle for the Jewish people then in Russia. And one of the things that the Rebbe emphasizes in the Haggadah, when we read the Haggadah on Pesach night, is that the answer to the rebellious son, that if you were in Egypt and you didn't believe that Hashem will take you out of Egypt, we're hearing an echo from someone's computer, I'm not sure who, but he didn't take you out of Egypt, then you wouldn't have left Egypt. But now, after we left Egypt, every single Jew is holy. And every Jew, whoever they are and wherever they are, is always ready for Mashiach, is always ready to be turned back on to Judaism. And the story I want to share today is a story related to from the Baal Shem Tov. The story related to the Baal Shem Tov, related to this concept. So the Baal Shem Tov used to have a custom that Saturday night after Shabbat, very often, he would travel. He would get his wagon driver to get the horses and the buggy ready, and they would go on journeys, sometimes himself, many times he took students, and all of these journeys were incredible stories, many miraculous and guidance and other events. And often, most of the time, the wagon driver used to fall asleep and the horses went where they had to go to, and Kvitzas Haderech with the miraculously quick, short route. And this was not a Saturday night. This was one Thursday night. The Baal Shem Tov suddenly tells his wagon driver, get the wagon ready, and he took a few of his students. We're going to spend Shabbos somewhere. And they go, and they all fall asleep, and the wagon is going very quickly, passing meadows and fields and forests. And then, all of a sudden, when the light breaks out, they stop in the middle of a forest. And the Baal Shem Tov asks one of his students, please get some water. We have to wash our hands. The student says, water? Where are we going to find water here? But if the Rebbe asks, you look. And they went, and they looked around, and they found water, a well, a spring. They brought the water back to Baal Shem Tov. He washed his hands, and he made a bracha. And after he made the bracha, he said, okay, let's continue. They continued traveling, took a few hours, and they arrived into a town, into the Jewish area. They saw full of bustling with Jewish life, and the town said, at least we're going to spend Shabbos in a Jewish town. But the Baal Shem Tov did not tell the wagon driver to stop. They kept on going. And they leave the Jewish ghetto, the Jewish area of the town. They wonder where they're going. It's Erev Shabbos. It's right before Shabbos. And then, as they continue to the edge of town, they pull into an area of row houses, and Baal Shem Tov says, stop. And they get out of the wagon, and onto the porch of that house comes out a fellow. It was the house of a tailor. And he looks at Baal Shem Tov and his students with long beards, and he says, what are you doing here? This is a dangerous place. This is the place near the university. They're anti-Semitic. I am a tailor, so they need my services. They let me live here. But if they find out Jews are here, they're going to kill you. But Baal Shem Tov kept on walking up. He said, we're here to stay for Shabbos. Please invite us in. And he looked at the Baal Shem Tov's face, and he recognized this must be a holy man, a holy face. So he let them in, but right away he closed the door behind them. Baal Shem Tov said, we'd like to be here for Shabbos. And between the Baal Shem Tov, his students, and the tailor and his family, they had a minyan. Baal Shem Tov said, in a few minutes, we're going to pray mincha. So they got themselves ready, and they came to pray mincha. Just as they started to pray mincha, all of a sudden, a group of students must have gotten word that a bunch of Jews came to town, broke the door open, and they came with their sticks, and they want to hit the Baal Shem Tov and the students. But the Baal Shem Tov looked towards their direction, and with his holy, piercing eyes, and the beautiful tunes that were being sung, they all froze in their place. They couldn't move further. And after a few minutes, they all just left. They ran away. Then, a few minutes later, the door opens and a man comes in. The tailor looks at this man and his face becomes white. This man is a professor, the most anti-Semitic professor in the entire university. What's he doing in my house? What kind of trouble is he going to make? What's he going to do to my guests? What's going to be the end of this? But to his surprise, the professor stands in one place and just is fixated on the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov keeps praying, Mincha, then they do Ma'ariv, and the Baal Shem Tov, a fiery prayer. He's praying, he leads the prayer full of fervor, full of singing, and the Baal Shem Tov is on fire. And the students haven't seen the Baal Shem Tov like this, and they finish the prayer, and then they sit down to the meal. The Baal Shem Tov leads by making a kiddush and singing songs, and the professor, meanwhile, is in the corner, hasn't moved. And then the Baal Shem Tov, in the middle of the meal, says a little Torah, a little thought, and he says, you know, that sometimes a person, a neshama, can come down to the world for 70 or 80 years, spend their entire lifetime, and their whole mission is just to help another Jew physically or spiritually. And that one favor they do for the Jew, that is the reason they came down to earth. And this is for every soul. We all have a mission. And every soul is here sent by God. And every soul has to fulfill their mission. And they never heard the Baal Shem Tov talk with so much passion and fire. His face was shining with light. They didn't even notice the professor anymore standing in the corner. The meal was over and the professor went home. The next morning, when they're starting to daven, the professor walks in, stays in a corner and watches the whole prayers in the morning, comes back from Mincha. And after they spent the Shabbos, thank God no events happened, the tailor was happy. Hashem said it's time to go home. I missed out that on the way Friday morning, besides washing for water, they made one more stop. Before they came to the town, they stopped by a hut at the edge of the forest. And Hashem was met by a man, also with a long beard, white beard, with a beautiful, shining, holy face. They had a conversation. They weren't sure, the students, if that's where they're going to spend Shabbos. When the Baal Shem Tov came back on the wagon, they realized they're not going to spend Shabbos there. So many events. He stopped in the forest to make a blessing. They stopped by this hut. He spoke to someone. They passed by the Jewish quarters to spend Shabbos with this tailor. The students, they're frozen in their place. The professor, what's going on? The students couldn't contain themselves anymore. So on their journey back, they asked the Rebbe, please tell us what happened. So Hashem says, I'll tell you a little bit. He says, when we passed by in the forest and we stopped, there were two people who died there, two Jews who died there. And they died when there was no one around, and they never had a proper burial. No blessing was ever said over their place. So Hashem brought us there, so when we make a bracha, a blessing in that place, we elevated the neshamot, the souls of these two people who passed away. At least something holy happened around the place where they passed away and they were buried. So where's the house we went to, they asked. He says, that was the soul of Mashiach. In every generation, Mashiach is waiting to come. And Baal Shem Tov was privy to spiritual, seeing the world of souls. He said, we stopped by to have a talk. Why aren't you coming yet? And he said, it will be soon, but not yet. And I was checking in to see how can we bring Mashiach to come quicker to the world. But what about this tailor? He says, that I can't tell you. One day you'll find out. Okay. A few years later, these two students were traveling on a mission for the Baal Shem Tov, and they ended up in a town. And they get to the town, and the rabbi is giving his talk on Shabbat. And the rabbi starts talking with so much passion and so much fervor. And they recognize that what he's talking about, they heard once, and they're trying to think, where did they hear his discussion? Talking about a soul, that every soul is put down by Hashem for a mission that comes down to help. They help sometimes even one person physically or spiritually. Then they remember, wow, they heard these words in the tailor's house in this village. How did this man know those words? Did he meet the Baal Shem Tov before? We never saw him in the court of the Baal Shem Tov. So after the speech, they go over to the man, they say, such an incredible talk. But where did you hear these words? We heard it from our Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov, but where did you hear these words? He says, I also heard it from the Baal Shem Tov. So they asked, but when? We've never seen you before. He says, do you remember, because I recognize you, one Shabbat, you guys, the Baal Shem Tov, you spent in a very anti-Semitic area of a town, and there was a professor standing there throughout the prayers. He said, that professor was me. I was a Jewish soul that had gone astray. I turned away from my people. And when I heard that a man is in town, a holy man is in town, the students told me, I said, I have to go. I'm going to stop them. But when I came into the door, I was mesmerized by the holiness. And I had to come back. I stayed and I had to come back. And the words of the Baal Shem Tov became engraved in me, that a soul comes out to the world by God and it has to do a favor even for one person. And it awoke within me my Jewish soul again. And afterwards I went to find myself. And here I am. I'm a rabbi of a community. And I carry this message wherever I go. And this is the message that the Rebbe carried as well, is that every neshama is alive. Every neshama is by God like an individual child. We're home isolated, but by God we're always isolated. We're alone. For Hashem, just to be with each one of us individually is worth everything. Hashem doesn't need big crowds. He wants to be with you and I, every one of us individually. And that's the message Rebbe carries with us, that we should carry to every one of those around us, how precious we all are to Hashem. For ourselves to remember, and other ones around us to remember that Hashem, we're also precious. And every one of us here has our unique mission in the world. And may Hashem help that we should fulfill our mission. And more importantly, that we should be able to feel Hashem's presence in our life completely and fully. And this Pesach, this is the Rebbe's birthday and Pesach, we should be reunited with the Rebbe, and we should be reunited with all the Jews in Israel, in Jerusalem, with the third temple, and we should be able to celebrate Pesach like we did years ago in the third temple, in the best and most beautiful way. And it says that Mashiach comes, Eliyahu Navi will greet him. So we'll finish off before we wish to each other Shavua Tov. We'll sing Eliyahu Hanavi, and as well, I want to remind everyone, 9:30 tomorrow morning, we're doing a big prayer and tefillin. Please come on, send the link to as many friends as possible. We want to have 118 people. And as well, 11 o'clock, we're going to do our mock Seder. So join with me. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Bimheira Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David. And happy quickly in our days. Let's wish each other a Shabbat Tov, a beautiful week, a happy birthday for the Rebbe, which is our birthday of our generation.
Rabbi.
Have all these beautiful, beautiful things for each and every one of us. The greatest blessings, physically, materially, the health for every Jew, all people in the world. The pandemic should pass. We should only have joy and beautiful things together.
Amen.
Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Hi, Stefan.
Hi, Chaim.
Bye.
Beautiful.